Hi, it's Melissa Langton again from Accelerate, your people paracetamol. I've got another amazing chapter in our Unlocking the Code to a High Performing Business video series. Today, I am talking to perhaps one of the most inspirational leaders in our modern world. Now, that's a huge call, but as a mother of 2 children, her work is probably the most impactful on our future as a society and as a community. I'm talking to the amazing Fiona Holmstrom from STEM Punks. If you haven't heard of Fiona, and most likely you haven't, get to know her. She is critically acclaimed and her awards are coming thick and fast, but they are so well deserved. I know you are going to get a lot out of my chat with Fiona. So sit back and definitely enjoy hearing about what our future can hold. Fiona Holmstrom, a very good morning to you. And which part of the universe are you currently in?
Good morning, Mel. Thanks for having me. I'm in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia.
Doesn't look like it. Looks like you might be on the red planet, actually.
Could be. We could all be on the red planet. You never know.
So how long do you think it'll be when we've got inhabitants on the red planet?
Inhabitants, I don't know about inhabitants, but exploration, at least a decade.
That's fantastic. It's our version of the moon landing, isn't it?
Exactly.
Wonderful. Well, that probably leads in perfectly to understanding who is Fiona Holmstrom and what do you do and why do you do it?
Well, Mel, I'm Fiona Holmstrom, as you said, and I'm the co-founder and director of STEM Punks. And STEM Punks is all about STEM education for children all across the globe. So whether they're in primary school, high school, private school, public school, distance school, we provide online and in-person incursions for students and teachers in STEM education, which is, for those who don't know what STEM is, science, technology, engineering, and maths.
Oh, awesome. So why is that important? Because to be honest, I was not a very big fan of maths, engineering, science, or technology. I think the technology was grade 10, a computer room for IT.
Yeah, well, it's important to realize that STEM is not just a subject or a standalone subject, it's a mindset. So it's about problem solving. So what we do at STEM Punks is we inspire the next generation of innovators to solve tomorrow's problems today. And we do that by enabling a mindset of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And why STEM is important, to answer your question, is that in the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that will exist then haven't been invented yet. So that's only 9 years away. And it's likely that a lot of those jobs will depend on skills like automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, to name a few. And they're all the skills that we're teaching children now to get them job ready and to future-proof them for the careers that will exist when they're in the workforce.
So that sounds really technical and high level, and you go, oh, there's no way, that's just too complicated. But are we seeing some of that right now in our real life, even in business?
Absolutely. It's all around us. Things like artificial intelligence and machine learning, that we use them in our phones every day. Smartphones have things like that. Our cars, you've heard of autonomous driving, things like smart cars, Teslas, electric vehicles have all that technology and more to come. So it's developing rapidly. It's an ever-evolving, fast-paced world, but those skills are going to be needed for the future, and they're needed right now. So the more kids that we can upskill to have a part in STEM, the better the world will be.
And why are you a part of it?
I really believe in education for everyone, Mel. When I was a young child, I immigrated to Australia and my parents wanted better opportunities for me. So when I went through high school and finished, there was unfortunately not a chance for me to go to university. I had the grades, but not the money. So it wasn't until a few decades later that I put myself through uni. But one of the things that I noticed when I was a young girl was that there weren't the opportunities in technology that there were for boys. So as an example, my brother was given a computer because computers weren't for girls. They were a boys thing back then. So I know, shock horror. So I taught myself to code. I snuck around when he wasn't there and got into the computer and taught myself to code and build games and do challenges and solve puzzles and that sort of thing. And so I knew that my life would somehow involve technology. I just wasn't sure to what capacity. So, and here we are, you know, a few decades later, and unfortunately things haven't changed that much for girls. There's still that gender disparity that we see on a day-to-day basis in all levels, not just in school, but in industry, in academia, and at board level as well. And things are changing, but they're just changing a bit too slowly. So it's one of my personal missions to address that gender imbalance and to make things easier for girls to get into STEM.
And we chatting off air in our previous conversations, which went, for those watching and listening, went for 2 hours. We're only supposed to speak for an hour, so it was absolutely. People know I love to talk, but it was great. I found someone else who loves to do it as well. You mentioned it was a real life, that gender disparity when you were talking, even comparisons with your kids, because daughters and sons, even the conversations of what you're going to do when you grow up. I'd love you to share that.
So yeah, children get asked what they're going to be when they grow up, but as I said earlier, those jobs that will be around haven't been invented yet, most likely. So we're putting pressure on children and asking them what they want to be when we don't even know what those roles will be. So stop asking that question. We don't need to ask that question. We just need to instead foster this mindset of innovation and creativity and entrepreneurship, and educate children about 21st century skills that will be transferable to any industry, no matter what role they choose. And 21st century skills, Mel, involve things like communication, collaboration, creativity, empathy, critical thinking, problem solving, prototyping, that sort of thing, and entrepreneurship. So those skills will be usable and beneficial no matter whether you want to be a plumber or a ballerina or a scientist or an astronaut. Group work and teamwork is something that's critical for working in the workplace, yet we don't see a lot of that happening in schools. So they're the skills that are transferable and usable and can be learnt at any age, really.
And that's ironic, because any time that we do our interviews of staff, the key questions and the reason why someone does or doesn't fit in the business is because of their communication, their ability for teamwork, their ability for critical thinking. So it's really at that forefront, isn't it?
Yeah,
really
we can learn that
those,
as adults too. It's not too late as an adult to learn those skills.
Yeah. So what questions should we be asking of kids about their future then? If asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Maybe change that narrative to, what do you want to solve when you grow up? Because there's so many problems that humanity is facing at the moment, tremendous challenges, you know, like climate change and pollution and deforestation and all of these issues that kids are passionate about. They have a knowledge about it, and they also have that they don't have that fear of rejection or fear of failure that we're kind of conditioned to as adults. So they already have that ability to think in that manner and look at the world and understand how they can improve society. So, and what we try to do at STEM Punks is to give children that blank canvas where they can solve tomorrow's problems with that mindset of innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, and really bring value to society with those ideas that they come up with, because they really are. They have none of those virtual barriers that we do. Yeah. When we're, you know, as adults, we kind of think, oh, well, we can't do it that way, or we've always done it this way. Yeah. Kids don't think like that. So they're ideal to give these world problems to and go, okay, what are your solutions?
What's the best part of your job?
Look, education is a really noble profession, and I take my hat off to teachers everywhere, especially in this COVID era with everything they've had to go through. But teaching and giving kids opportunities through education is just wonderful. I can't, you know, I feel so privileged to be in this position where I can aim to improve children's lives and give them opportunities with these skills. So I'm really fortunate to do what I do.
That's just amazing. It's so wonderful to hear, Fiona. So I've been asking a lot of people, and the point of this series is about building a high-performing business, but really looking at what you're talking about, it's foundational work and those sorts of things. But what would be your tip in building a future? Because that's what a high-performing business is about, isn't it? So what's your tip for that?
There's probably a few different tips depending on which strategy we're looking at or which growth plan. A lot of them have to do with communication and empathy, those skills that I was mentioning earlier, those 21st century skills. But also things like, networking and engaging with stakeholders and developing those multi-level relationships is really important in business, because I don't believe we can do anything in isolation. I think it's always a team effort, but also outside the team, engaging with stakeholders either in your region or in your industry, developing partnerships that have a mutual beneficial outcome or a win-win. That's really critical to success. I think doing something in isolation, yeah, it's doable, but it's probably a lot slower. So expediting that with bringing other people into the picture. So whether that's your local government or your local economic development agency, or people in the same industry, or people within industry that you want to collaborate with, that's always a really good way of developing partnerships and relationships with those outside your core team.
Yeah, and really looking at all of that, it comes back to that collaboration, isn't it? Is that
yeah,
really
absolutely
important? Has that been important for your business?
Yeah, definitely. Even more so with COVID, we really looked, about 18 months ago to diversify the business. We'd previously been a face-to-face business going into schools and doing incursions. Yeah, which, obviously came to a grinding halt when all the schools closed, and we knew that we had to scale the business online, but just didn't have the time. So when schools closed and COVID came, that was an ideal opportunity for us to be able to scale the business online. So that's what we did. Brought all of the content online, which enabled us to grow a lot faster, but also we brought in partners for that. So we brought in a partner for our STEM store. We had our own product line, our own product range, but then we amplified that with a supplier that we collaborated with. We also engaged with a producer in the USA to help us with our video production, which is in the studio that I'm in here. We built all of this to enable us to do live broadcasts, but we weren't really sure what we were doing. So instead of trying to work it out ourselves, which was great from an innovation perspective to learn by doing, but we also had to bring in experts. So we spoke to Brian Leckie, who's the executive producer of Mythbusters, which is a science education show, in the US. And he very generously has donated his time because he loves what we're doing and wants to work with us. So we've gotten input from him into our broadcasting and our live shows and our forthcoming app. Which has been tremendous, to have someone of his caliber saying, I love what you do and I'll help you and you don't have to pay me. It's amazing. So that's, an example of a great collaboration. So that's trying to think of some other examples. There were a lot of people that we engaged with and outsourced to make things better for the education programs that we deliver.
It really highlights again when you said around, well, it's lonely. You could do it yourself, but it's lonely. But you'd probably miss the boat too, because if you did it all yourself, someone else would get in there. Is that what you would find?
That's really true. Speed to market is critical in some cases, particularly if you're in a marketplace that's congested or you have a lot of competition, which is often the way with ed techs. Everyone's sort of trying to do the same thing at the same pace. So speed to market or first to market is sometimes the winning combination or the winning formula. So getting that sort of jump start by collaborating with others is what makes the difference sometimes, and certainly did for us.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, Fiona only in the last 12 months has been recognised very profoundly, and your awards is basically what I'm getting at, Fiona. It's an absolute testament to the passion and that collaboration and those partnerships that you've built. Because even when I asked you about, so how was last week around winning a really prestigious, important award, you were so humble in the group that you were a part of, which is just a real, again, a testament back to that collaboration, and we can't get anywhere without being a community and a society. So a huge kudos to you. And as a mother of a daughter, I could not be happier or prouder or more excited to have someone like yourself in her corner. So thank you. I really do genuinely from a mother. Thank you so much. It's just wonderful.
You.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Mel. I appreciate that.
I'm all about putting the human back in human resources. So I would love to know what's something that those out there listening or watching wouldn't know about you, but you would love to share.
Oh, okay. Look, I'm an introvert. I'm not great at public speaking, but once I'm in the zone, I can do it. But I find it really terrifying to do things like this. Yeah, to be on camera, to be interviewed on radio, to be on stage is frightening. And for an introvert, I just want to hide and be a hermit. Yeah. So being out there, putting myself out there is really pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But conversely, I do understand, and I highly recommend that we get out of our comfort zone, because that's where the magic happens, and we can only grow by pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone.
And again, that is amazing to know, because, and for someone who works with people around personality and their comfort zones, and people ask me all the time, oh, so if you like this, you can't do that. And I absolutely not. And thank you for sharing, because that's a spectacular, you would not have picked that at all. But when you do those sorts of things, how do you recharge?
Well, as all introverts do, we like our alone time. So I'm very comfortable with my own company. I find it really hard to be in a social situation and have to meet new people and make small talk. So I understand that's part of my role, and that's something I have to do to give visibility to getting more girls into STEM. That's what I'm trying to achieve. So I understand that involves being out and about. But I'm also a bookworm, so I love just curling up and reading a book on my own when I get a few minutes, just to recharge. So recharging is, for an introvert, is alone time. Not that you can get a lot of that when you've got a team of people and 3 young children around. That's right. I try my best.
Are you reading something exciting right now, or is it all STEM related?
Oh, I sometimes I read some research projects, and sometimes I read novels. It just depends. What did I have on my bookshelf?
Or favourite writer? Favourite novel writer, fictional writer?
I'm a fan of Chekhov, of his short stories, Anton Chekhov. So that's been one of my passions for a long time, is reading his stories. Ishiguro, a Japanese writer, I'm a big fan of him. Never Let Me Go, great book if you ever get the chance to read it.
Awesome.
There's so many. I mean, there's so many. Where do we start? That could be a whole other interview, Mel.
It could absolutely start our own book. I would love to be part of. Someone asked me, "Do you want to be part of my book episode?" I would love to. However, I read one page and I'm asleep. I'm not at that point with caring responsibilities to be able to even stay awake. I love reading. I always have. But that's one of those things.
Reading opens up other worlds for us.
It does, doesn't it? And that's exactly as you said. The universe is the limit. So
it's escapism too. It's a great form of getting yourself out of where you're at in this high-paced, fast information world that we're in. It's nice just to decompress.
Absolutely. Well, on Mars, where you currently are, it's probably quite quiet, so you'll be able to have some alone time.
It's an introvert's paradise at the moment.
Absolutely.
Maybe in 10 years, not so much, but we'll
maybe keep them away until you're ready. Fiona, I can't thank you enough for your time this morning. I know how busy you are, and I genuinely, and now knowing that this type of conversation is somewhat a challenge, or it's somewhat a drain, I will allow you and give you that space to go and recharge. I hope you don't have too much else where you have to talk to more people this afternoon. But I want to thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure, Mel. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.